like to call to order the Allegheny County Board of Education meeting for February 13th, 2024. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reading of a closed session summary for executive session held January 16th, 2024.
The Allegheny County Board of Education met in closed session at 3:30 p.m. on January 16, 2024 at the central office. The purpose of the closed session was to consult with legal counsel, discuss a personnel matter, and engage in administrative function. All 5 board members were present for the meeting. The topics discussed were assistant principal position, assistant supervisor position, annual audit.
Thank you, Mr. Llewellyn. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Ms. Bender?
Second.
Dr. Bond? All those in favor? I'm going to pause here for a minute because on the consent agenda we have the Early Childhood Center that's going to be built at Washington Middle School next year. We've been in collaboration with the state and with the county, and we're headed that way. To my understanding, it's going to be a 14-room building. The county has been very, very good to work with us on this, and the state is pushing it, so we're getting a lot of financing for the state on this, and I think it's really great. Most of the board members were at the Early Childhood Center at Westmar last week, and I think there's something on social media on that today. It's a really great thing, and I think putting one at Washington will really help the city schools, maybe take some of the pressure off of it. I want to let any of the other board members have anything to say about that. No? You?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I'd like to thank the county, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Patterson, and Mr. DeWitt, the collaboration, the input that was put into the Early Childhood Center. They couldn't have been more supportive. I wanted to thank from the IAC, Alex Donahue, who's in charge. He's been very supportive throughout their meeting on February 8th, and it'll be finalized in May at their May meeting. So I wanted to thank them, and also wanted to thank Jay Marley for leading the way, along with Larry McKenzie leading the way for us to be able to have this great opportunity for our students. And also, before we go back to the agenda, I wanted to congratulate and thank Steve Wilson. Was a supervisor here he's been an employee for over 30 years. He retired in January. So John Logston was a supervisor of elementary, and he's been an employee here for over 30 years. And we as a staff want to thank them for all their leadership and all they've done for the Allegheny County Public Schools, and wish them the best in retirement.
Thank you. The other thing that kind of blends into this, the Greenway Avenue Committee, along with other folks, helped with getting new lighting at Greenway Avenue Stadium this past week, which was done, and it didn't hamper any things going on over there. They did it in 1 week, and I've seen pictures of it. Apparently the LED lighting has, number one, it's going to save us a lot of money. Number two, it did not cost us anything. And number three, it really makes the field stand up. I think Tammy's on the Greenway Avenue Committee, and those folks worked very hard to get a grant to get that done, and I'd like to thank them for all their input in that. Tammy, you have anything on that?
Yeah, I would like to thank that committee for everything that they've done. They lost one of their members this year, Mark Magnus, which I think we talked about before, and one of the things that their goal is to ensure that his vision, which included making Greenway Avenue Stadium the stadium of the future for all sports and all activities. He made a point to make sure it wasn't just football, And they're doing just that. They're making sure that these, the lights specifically, were set up, and the company they went through were to make sure it's the right voltage or whatever the right word is, to make sure that there's no glare in the wrong places, whether it's football or whether it's band doing a performance, and there's the glare off of the bleachers. They've talked about it before, where the glare gets in the way of doing things, and so they're making sure that that glare and the pointing of those is correct. And one of their members, John Felton, who took over the lighting piece of it, has been up there, I think, almost every day, watching and making sure that the lights were going up and taking pictures. And so we would like to thank him, too, because he is going out of his way to make sure that this is done. And he was the one that helped do it during the off time. Because originally they were going to start January 17th when it was 11 degrees outside. And so they couldn't do that, right? But they wanted to make sure they tried to get it done, weather permitting, before track season and stuff like that started. So they really did a good job on that. And then outside of that, their next step up is they're still looking at other things. So the committee is made up of community members, and they all are doing a great job of trying to make sure that we have the state-of-art stadium as well as a safe stadium. So that's the next step, is to the visitor side, looking at those things on the visitor side to be safe.
Thank you. Hank?
Yeah, I'd like to repeat also that John Felton and Kathy Getty, they've been working hand in hand with us to make things as easy as possible for our community and our students. I know there's many others on the committee, but those two specifically, after Mark had passed away, that's who we've been communicating with throughout the light project. So thank you to those two, especially, along with the entire committee.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on, the last month, January, was Maryland School Board Recognition Month, but because, if you recall, we had to move the meeting and move the meeting and move the meeting because of snow and weather things and stuff, we weren't able to do it. So previous to the meeting, we had the pictures taken that we got from the state, from the governor, proclamation to this board for our dedication and work for school board, and also a certificate from the Maryland State School Board and MABE on our dedication and work for being a school board and helping the students and community of Allegheny County. So I just wanted to make that recognition that we're a little bit late, but couldn't be helped. So next on the agenda is presentation proclamation recognizing February as African American History Month. Ms. Bender?
Okay, you'll see the full proclamation on the screen. I'm just going to summarize. We have a proclamation recognizing February 2024 as African American History Month on behalf of the Board of Education, presented to the Allegany Chapter 7007 of the NAACP, saying that the board is committed to honoring African Americans and recognizing their contributions and accomplishments to the history and culture of the United States. And this was to be presented to Ms. Tiffany Fisher, who could not be here today, but Dr. Sarah Welsh will accept on her behalf.
Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, I'm sweaty. Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Blank and President Farrell, members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to receive this proclamation on behalf of the NAACP Chapter 707. And also to make you aware, I'm not sure that we were necessarily all aware that last year in the 2023 Voice of Freedom Awards, one of our own school counselors, Dr. Christine Jackson, won that Educator Award for the year. So I was able to attend that along with some folks from Braddock, and to be able to cheer her on and celebrate, what a great staff we've got and a wonderful community connection.
Thank you. You get to do double duty because Ms. Lori Lepley has the proclamation for National School Counselors Week. Lori?
Yes.
So February 5th through the 9th has been designated National School Counseling Week, School Counselors Standard-Based, Student-Focused by the American School Counselor Association. So we would like to recognize and show our appreciation for school counselors who not only help our students achieve the success in school and afterwards, but also they help parents and teachers help the students achieve those goals as well.
Thank you. So yes, thank you again so much for the opportunity to receive this on behalf of our school counselors. They absolutely are the glue that sticks our schools together and keeps them running. We for sure appreciate our counselors, and we've also in ACPS have really tried to take the opportunity to expand that celebration and recognize our mental health specialists and our school social workers also, who have become such a strong part of that team and supporting the school counselors in all the different ways to really identify and support students in the best way that we can while they're with us in the buildings. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate you coming in today. Next on the agenda is a proclamation recognizing February as Career and Technical Education Month. Dr. Bond.
So the Board of Education issues this proclamation February 2. Thank you, sir. For February 2024, and it has been designated Career and Technical Education Month. And with that, we want to say that career and technical education offers students the opportunity to gain the academic, technical, and employable skills necessary for true career readiness, and prepare students for these and other fulfilling careers by offering integrated programs of study that link secondary and post-secondary education and lead to attainment of industry-recognized credentials. So therefore, we, the Board of Education of Allegheny County, do hereby proclaim February 2024 as Career and Technical Education Month. And just certificate to display proudly in your lobby.
Thank you, Dr. Bond. Appreciate that. I just want to thank you, the superintendent and the board, for recognizing CTE month and for providing the support for all of our CTE programs, whether it's at the Career Center or at our comprehensive high schools. Mr. King wasn't able to be here today, but he wanted to make sure that I highlighted our exceptional staff, at the Career Center on both the skill side and the academic side as well. These teachers go beyond, what they need to do to prepare our students for success in the workforce and also for post-secondary education. We're proud of our students, and we're proud of the hard work they've done and the skill set that they really get at the end of their career. As we begin our recruiting for 2024-25, we hope that parents and students, will consider career and technical education for the many benefits it offers. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Brewer. I don't have the date in front of me. I don't want to put you on the spot. Is the open house this week or is it next week? I have it on my calendar.
Thursday.
It's this
4 to
Thursday,
6.
right?
Yeah,
So,
and then we have an open house in the Makerspace on the 27th. So that's going to be Tuesday the 27th at 6 o'clock.
So students and families interested in seeing the Career Center, I think it's from 4 to 6.
4 to 6
4 to
this
6
Thursday.
this Thursday. So please come out and see the program. The Career Center's been growing, and there are lots of great opportunities for students. So thank you.
Thanks for reminding us of that.
Mr. McKenzie, you're on deck. Our budget priorities.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon. What you have before you, we had previously discussed some items. This becomes kind of the framework of our budget process and the backbone of our budget. And these are the draft fiscal 25 board budget priorities. And the first one, to maintain and enhance resources and programs for early childhood development utilizing various funding streams and/or reallocation of facilities where possible. Next, maintaining and enhancing student safety and mental health by providing appropriate worker support and specialized programming based upon demonstrated student need, and increasing school safety where possible, considering local law enforcement recommendations and the Maryland Center for School Safety Policies and Regulations. Next, make every effort to provide employees with cost-effective negotiated benefits, including salary and health insurance, that incorporate changes established by the Blueprint of Maryland's Future and provides pay increases where possible. And then lastly, but certainly not least, provide summer educational support programs across all grade levels in addition to credit recovery. So, do you have any additions or amendments that you'd like considered?
We need a vote to accept these as our priorities.
Motion to approve the fiscal 25 budget priorities as presented.
Motion by Ms. Fraley,
Second?
second by Dr. Bond. Any other discussion on it? All those in favor? Approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I'm still
Next,
on.
you're up on draft of state aid.
Right. So this year, the snapshot of our state aid that we've received from as part of the governor's budget has been extremely positive for us. I'll kind of take you through that here. What we want to do, we're going to talk about the state aid and also some budget considerations. We have a couple things, relative to some expiring grants, the impact of the blueprint legislation that we want to talk about as well. So our state aid categories, basically these are the categories that our aid comes from the state broken down within. And for instance, the foundation program is across all of our students. Okay. Same way with transportation, we get two different types of transportation grants. One for regular transportation programs as well as one for special education programs. Compensatory education represents our students who are who have free and reduced meals or are free and reduced meal eligible. English learners would be our students who English is a second language for them. Special education is just that, those students that require some additional support. Guaranteed tax basis, we're one of 8 districts in the state who received this. That was one of the substantial areas of increase in this year's budget, the way our formula worked out. We'll kind of talk about that here in a second as well. The Blueprint Transition Grant Program, kind of as we're kind of setting the stage for the full implementation of Blueprint. Certainly the college and career readiness portion of the Blueprint as well. Concentration of poverty, we continue to have be receiving funds to help certain impoverished areas of our communities. Transitional supplemental instruction and pre-kindergarten, as we talked about as well, kind of the investment that we're making within the early learning centers, and then teacher salary career ladder grants. Okay, so we've talked an awful lot in the past, and I'll just be brief, kind of how our state aid is actually impacted by our wealth. And wealth is used to gauge our ability a county's ability to fund school activities. And it occurs in an inverse ratio, so that poorer districts receive more state aid, and districts that are considered wealthier would receive less state aid, with the gaps being filled in by their local governments. So what we consider wealth is basically made up of 3 different items. Half of the personal property base, 100% of the net taxable income base for that particular year, as well as 40% of the real property base. So where we were impacted this year, and you'll recall last year, there was a significant lottery win within the county, which increased our net taxable income, the net taxable income portion of our wealth. And this year, the opposite of that occurred. So that lottery win was kind of taken off of the books. So whenever that was taken out, you can see we had a significant decline in wealth this year. We went down 12.15%. In fact, we were the only district that did have a decline in wealth. So, this was huge for us in terms of receiving additional state aid. So the state average was a 3.15% increase in wealth. So Allegany currently ranks 22nd in terms of per pupil wealth. Again, last year we had jumped up to 21st, and it did have a significant impact on our state aid, to the point where the state provided us, and I believe Baltimore City, an additional grant to make us whole. So no districts last year lost state aid. So that was significant for us last year. Okay, so between this year's decrease in wealth and the increase in the state average, our local aid then jumped as a result. So not only is district wealth is aid calculated based upon wealth, it's also based upon enrollment or per pupil wealth. So enrollment plays a key part of that as well. So you can see our K-12 enrollment had a slight decline of 3.5 students, so less than 1%. So it was basically flat year over year. So the number of students who qualify for free and reduced meals, so the compensatory education portion of our state aid, there was an increase of 58 students this year, which equated to a 1.23% increase. So that was actually a smaller increase than the state average, which is good. The state average increased 1.31%. In terms of our special education students, there was, and I think this shouldn't be a surprise, I think we did see an increase of 117 students this year to 1,316, so almost a 10% increase there. So currently, special education enrollment is approximately 17% of our total enrollment. And then lastly, kind of looking at the state's overall enrollment, you can see it was basically flat as well. It went up 1,126 students. However, that's over 850,000 students. So this is a breakdown of all the sources of aid. So you can see, everyone kind of, I'm sure, wants to look at the bottom and see what the total increase is. So overall, we're going to see an increase based upon the governor's budget, the current budget as it stands. And again, we're still pretty early in the legislative session, about a month in, a little over a month in. So there may be some tweaks to this over before the final Budget Reconciliation Act is finalized. But at this point in time, we're looking at approximately a $15 million increase in our aid. Now, one of the things we need to consider, and then this is the aid graphically as well, but one of the things we need to consider is within this, some of this increase is also related to the blueprint for Maryland's future and some of the items that we have to account for relative to the blueprint. And then another consideration that I want to talk briefly about is the expiration of our CARES funding. So since the pandemic, we've had several different funding streams of CARES funding. And you'll hear, as you kind of listen to other districts talk, a lot of folks talk about this funding cliff whenever they consider CARES funding going away. So we've been, while it is a consideration and it does go away, the final piece goes away September 30th of 2024. This increase in funding will help kind of soften any shortfalls, to fill in those gaps where we've been using some CARES funding. And then lastly, obviously, anytime and throughout the legislative session, PZAM and MABE continue to monitor several bills that may impact the school finances. So they're continuing to do that and kind of keep us and the superintendent abreast of any of those bills that we may need to consider or send in financial impact statements or even testify for. So, does anybody have any questions about anything?
Tammy?
If you go back to, I don't know if you can, but back to slide 7 where you had the list of the state aid sources, not the pie graph, but yeah, that one. The description of the aid, does that make some of this aid that's being provided restricted versus unrestricted? For example, if it says teacher salary career ladder at the bottom, and that aid, that has to apply to teacher salary, not.
So that is true. So for that particular grant, that is the state's contribution towards our nationally board certified teachers. So the way that works out, and that's also wealth driven. So approximately 90% of those funds for national board certified teachers comes from the state versus local sources. So I think we have I think we have 11 or 12 currently. So this is the state's portion for those grants.
So, then like
And
the large increase for like special education, that has to be spent on special education, not.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And, even further diving into this, some of these grants, one of the whole premise of Blueprint is a lot of these funds following students as well. So for some of these grants, 75% of the funds need to follow the students to the schools. Okay, so so we're looking at our accounting software, accounting system, and the way we've set that up to be able to capture that data, to be able to report that to the state. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Thank you, Larry.
Yep.
Moving on, we have considered second reading of behavioral threat assessment policy filed JLDAC. Mr. Llewellyn.
This is on second reading for JLDAC. Again, from last time, this is just to catch up to the language in Comar.
Need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the second reading of the behavioral threat assessment policy, JLDAC.
Motion by Tammy Fraley,
Second.
second by Crystal Bender. All those in favor? It's approved. Public comment, I don't have anybody signed up. I don't have the sheet. Kim, did you have anything to say? Okay. Moving on. Board and superintendent response to constituents. I don't have any of that. New business. Consider first reading of early admission policy, JEB. Mr. Llewellyn.
So on your agenda, I think you have both the policy and the regulation, which both has changes. So I'm going to recommend we do the policy first and then look at the regulation next, although they're connected. So we're, again, just making changes to the policy to bring it back in line with Comar and state law. So the change is highlighted there. It'll take 2 readings for this to take effect. The goal being this needs to be in place in time for the next school year.
Okay. We need a motion for the first reading of the early admission policy.
Motion to approve first reading for policy JEB.
Motion by Crystal Bender,
Second.
second by Dr. Bond. All those in favor? Approved.
Is there any objection to doing the regulation review in this meeting and having it out of the way?
Anybody have any objection to that?
So this just goes along. Of course, if the board doesn't take action, the regulation becomes effective upon a second reading of the policies. So again, this is just bringing the regulation in line with COMAR.
There's no vote needed for that. We need a vote to meet an executive session on March 12th, excuse me. Oh,
You also have policy regulation, DJBR1. So the legislature passed a law 2 years ago, actually, requiring us to make changes to our procurement orders. And so we had to add several definitions to our regulation. And then our procurement policy needs to have a separate section for what we call digital tools. And so that's in here. This follows along with what the legislature did. So this actually follows statute, but also brings us into line with the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. So it's also federal law.
okay. No need for a vote on the regulation.
So if there's no objection, then the regulation takes effect immediately.
Next is the vote to meet in executive session March 12th, 2024. Motion?
I move to meet an executive session on March 12th, 2024.
Dr. Bond, motion.
Second.
Second by Lori Lepley. All those in favor? Approved. Our student member of the board, Alex, is ill today, so she couldn't be here. So I hope she feels better soon, gets back, but I guess it's the stuff going around. Board member updates. No board member updates. I'd like to say I welcome Dr. Caldwell back to our midst. We haven't seen her in a couple weeks, and glad to see you back. Cammie.
Just a reminder to the community that the Hubley Plunge, which does provide some funding to the school system, and to our students at least, I should say, that is scheduled for Saturday, March 2nd. So it would be before the first board meeting. And anybody that would like to come out and enjoy the nice, cool water, that would be great. And I think that as we move forward, we need to continue to be part of these community events as much as we can to show our support for the community, especially when they're raising some funds for our students.
Are you jumping in?
I'm planning to if I'm not sick.
Okey doke. Anybody else? Want to jump in the water? Any of that stuff? Okay. Doctor, or Mr. Blank? No? No one jumping in?
Oh, am I jumping in the water?
Yeah.
I'll wait for our holy plunge.
Oh, okay. Whatever you want to do.
And I'll watch.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Dr. Bond,
Second.
second by Ms. Bender. All those in favor? We're out of here.